Hello, I'm Gary Wright from FinExtra and I'm here at Sibos Singapore 2015. And today I'm joined by Mike Jessick from EPAM.
Hello.
So are banks doing enough to take into account customers' requirements when they're looking at developing digital services?
It's interesting. I think if you would have asked me that on Monday, I think I might have a different response than today, being Wednesday. So what I was surprised to see is that there is a lot of conversation around user research and customer insights being discussed at the conference here. The thing I'm a little bit skeptical of is, or at least have questions about is, are banks actually taking that and, other than a few key contributors, maybe at the C level that are talking about it, is that permeating down through all the different layers and silos of finance organizations, and are they doing enough to actually change the culture around gaining customer insights and using those to actually transform the ways that they think about financial products and services. So I think it's what's interesting is Monday there was a lot of discussion about that, and I was surprised to see that because I was thinking I would be one of the few people that's really that kind of advocate for user research and usability testing and things like that. There is still a lot of that conversation, so I'm hopeful that it will change, but from what I've seen, it might be just within this kind of chief innovation officer, chief digital officer level, and maybe throughout these groups, but I think it will be a little while before we start to see that permeate and become part of the culture around letting not just business and information technology drive requirements and change, but really putting the voice of the customer at the forefront.
So how can a service design approach help?
So what's interesting is if you take that user research and customer insights that you've gathered, it's really less about asking the customer what they want, because in reality they can't see the future any more than we can, and it's not going to be a cognitive thought process of like, oh, I want this or I want that. But if you analyze behaviors and the actual customer needs and start to look at patterns across the different user segments, that's where you start to find different patterns. So if you take what we call service design and map out not just how they're interacting with your brand or your bank, what are those different triggers that cause them to pick up a phone and interact with your products and services? Look across that, and not just at the touch points with your bank, but across how else they're using digital devices and sensors and technology. Look at those patterns and kind of map out what their end-to-end journey is, what that customer journey is. You start to illuminate these, first of all, if you compare that against the capabilities of your bank, then you start to see these gaps that are exposed. And that could beg the question, should we do something about this within our practice, within our products and services that helps meet that customer need? So you identify those gaps, and then those really turn into other opportunities for the bank that you need to think about. So I think a lot of that is just our internal speak around tech and design input, but I think what it really does, as far as, again, to tie it back to the culture, is you should try to make everybody within your organization like a storyteller. And I think if you can start to tell customer stories in human speak, just common language, I think that is more powerful than you tend to think about.
How do you transform service design into a product strategy?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. If we could take an entire 5-year vision, 10-year vision of like what a customer's experience should be. We could come up with all these great ideas and forward-thinking concepts around a whole range of products and experiences. But if you look at banks, the way that they're, let's say the larger banks, the way that they're formed in the back-end systems and technology, there are a lot of hurdles that exist. So you can't just immediately tackle such a huge program. I think what's key, and what I tend to do, is always design and prototype some end product vision that might be 5 or 10 years out. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Again, it might not be the right solution, but at least you're thinking forward. But the key is not to just keep that as your one digital strategy. It's how do you chunk it out, and how do you look at the current needs of the business, and like what's actually achievable within the next 6 months. So if you're able to chunk that out and look at the IT feasibility of those things, then you can actually come up with at least a roadmap for how to release new products and features that are giving your customers more of what they need, more delight in kind of the ways that they interact with your bank.
That's great, Mike. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for watching.